think I might have rescued that one from the depths. See whether or not this picks up on the other side. Uh-huh. I'm gonna go to cam only for a minute. Watch. Watch from the background. You can hear the clickety click. Watch as stuff comes up. Figure out how far along I am. Uh-huh. Much better. Okie doke. Getting down through this. Next thing. Gonna look for a minimal web browser. Pale Moon didn't do me any favors that time. First thing I did with Blender last night when I got to work with the project that I'm continuing. First thing I did was to turn up the amount of available RAM to Blender, which may well have caused the crash of the audio system. What was funny is that crash wasn't Blender so much as it was the audio system on my computer, which needed to be rebooted. Not the computer, the audio system. Long explanation. The thing which ran out of memory first was the audio. Okay. Okay. Whatever. I'm referring to a top secret document which was just handed to me. Courtesy of revised Iridian Air. I can't say any more than that. And oh yeah, it worked. Dun, 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 dun. $2,700. The man sits alone. Yes, on Mars, baby. Going to the live streaming area. I imagine this is allowing it through here. Been streaming for a few minutes. We're under B here now. Yeah, it sees me, it hears me, it sees the right picture. Good, 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 good. I'll now head to the control room as soon as I've got this all straightened away. There is a link to a Discord channel in the description of the video you're currently watching. I don't know if Discord's still running. I don't see it running. Looks like I have to pop open Discord too. Haha, you're not receiving enough data. Whatever. Looks like people don't want me talking too much. Maybe I say something gonna hurt to the whole, you know, Mr. Fisher Misha. Mr. Fisher Misha, that's a real good way of putting it. Mr. Fisher Misha. Mr. Fisher Misha has all kind of goals. Right? Tell me I ain't telling the truth. Got something to say to me? Put it in the chat room. Chat room is open. There is no moderation other than mine. Mine is pretty moderate, if I do say so myself. And I have no need this evening of any other web page. It's tempting to close. Very, very tempting to close down Pale Moon at this point. But I wouldn't have a chat room then, and that's just not effective. Just not effective or acceptable. Let me go to the user preferences for a second. I could turn down the amount of RAM required by the project here. It should be fitting comfortably there. Hopefully that'll cut down on any scrubbing issues might occur, although I don't see why scrubbing should cause so much concern. Maybe I'll hide this for now. See if that doesn't improve matters. Anyhow, voice acting marked by the yellow. Pointing something out is going to be marked by green. Pointing it out with some kind of, either an arrow or some kind of an animated graphic for that length of time and no longer. After some amount of this time, then it will be holding for the rest of the image. Red for product placement. And then I have a little bit of script written in this black block. Don't let the book fool you. It's pretty much the first don't let the book fool you. So that'll be white text appearing somewhere on the screen. That's my way of looking at it. Oh, sorry. Here, let me show you again. Everything I was just describing is right here. Yellow for some kind of dialogue, which will be reinforced by adding the text to the screen of the dialogue or pointing out who says what. Maybe changing a graphic around their faces. I don't know. Could be anything. Green for some kind of a pointing out like an arrow. Red for product placement. And then these black bars, they mark other or alternative text that might be added to the screen, counterpoint to what the audio that you're listening to is saying. Don't let the book fool you, in other words, might be put up on the button. Don't let the book fool you, number 1. And then that will be a counter in its own right, which will be updated each time a don't let the book fool you pops up. And there may be other jokes to go along with that. More voice acting. In other words, in medias res. That's that. If you want to see where Act 1 begins and ends in this particular movie, pay attention to the in medias res of the jumping back and forth in time and how it confuses you to how old Chris Kyle is or was and at what point in time that he signed up for the army and how many tours he served before he became a sniper. These things are all in the book. They're not in the movie. In medias res. I'll put that in the chat room. In medias res. So I would submit to you the chapter, or not chapter, but the beginning and end of the first chapter or the first act of the movie is the in medias res bit. Don't let the book fool you. In medias res 4, I think this is it. Yeah, it's the last one. So we get the same shot over and over, right? Here's that one. Here's that one. And this one was also at the beginning of the movie, immediately before this one, or around about it. So if this isn't the very first shot, one similar to this. Oh. Gee whiz. One similar to that one or the other. Now, what else do I have on here? There are other colored ones. Here's one. This is an Oscar nomination, a sarcastic Oscar nomination. I had the idea to start offering more sarcastic Oscars throughout the movie without actually saying the joke aloud. This one is the Oscar for the swankiest belt buckle. And the Oscar, Oscar nomination, but he didn't win it. But he didn't win anyway. The Oscar for swankiest belt buckle would have been his if there were such an Oscar. How about this one? This one I got called the running CNN gag. There could be a bunch of different ones for this one. Whole idea being that anytime the story which is being told either in the movie, any kind of story being told as, kind of true, for you to be accepting as true is the way it was, you might want to consider it like something from CNN instead. Or it's maybe not true, Perhaps not that trustworthy. In fact, not trustworthy at all. I'm thinking about showing which one this one is.
Righteous indignation because he watches CNN whenever he can't find Fox on the television.
It's not actually CNN at this time. You can hear the voice of the person talking in the background isn't actually CNN, but it's someone who's supposed to have the authority of a CNN, and who's farther down the line been understood to be pretty much in someone's pocket. So, CNN running gag. There's no cable evident in the shot either. Recruitment with voice acting. This one here says, what? No yoga pants? Oh my. What's this one over here? Biggles is Job. Oh right, because if I unhide it, pardon me, the video sequence editor has a text object, which is becoming more and more controllable as time goes on. It can be wrapped, it can be exported as subtitles. You can put in text blocks here as subtitle blocks, and it'll pop up for the length of time. And it also has a built-in shadow effect. Let me push it up further on the Y. We'll zoom in a bit. It has an automatic shadow effect that can't be changed at this moment in time, but it is possible to change it by not using this one's and doing it like I did with the last, as with the last example. I mean to say, I think this text object should work as a mask for this black text here, and I could overlay one with the other one as a type of shadow. But 0.6 on the Y. I think it's actually better down here somewhere. Doesn't really need a shadow, but it works with it. At least to give it some resolution against the overlay, like the edge of the... It's a sense of it being on top that way. Now, do I need to use that text here or not? Well, there might be some places where there's not a whole heck of a lot to do with the text. I can animate it sort of by changing these values. There's not much else I could do with it though. Like if I wanted to spin it around or whatever, I would have to lay this down as a text element first and then do some kind of transformation to it. It might be a better way for me to go about that kind of text animation. But for simple text or subtitles or something, yeah, that would be great. Here comes the Oscar nomination for the most concisely aborted script. Because there's nothing whatsoever mentioned about anybody else, you know, who might want to remain. They don't want to get sued for. Yeah, here's a picture with an arrow in it. Haven't come up with one for this particular one yet. I don't think every one of them needs one. Overlaid text. This one is a running joke as well. This one needs to be more closely identified, but I think the joke is, "Good morning, Mr. Williams." You get the joke? Good morning, Mr. Williams. Do you see what I mean? A little too much Robin Williams in this scene, I think. Movie was released, what was it, 2014? 2015? 2014. Yeah, product placement. Product placement. I didn't actually say anything about it in the script point, but also product placement. Product placement. A product for hair as well, and concern for hair. Guinness sign staying lit the whole way through. Incredible, right? This is, yeah, Sniper School. This would have been at the end of his first tour, not before the beginning of it. Which fucks up this whole in medias res bit. It's number 2. This totally screws everything. He had the option to train up for Sniper, and that's what he did. He won no complaining, dude, in the first 3 to 6 years of the war. If he ever did complain. Rattlesnake. What's this one here? Recurring CNN gag, plus in medias res, plus don't let the book fool you. So there's a huge coincidence. There's 3 visual jokes here. There's a... What the hell could this possibly be? This is some kind of significant event in history upon which almost everything in the rest of all of this will matter. The importance of this... What could it possibly be that is this important?
Not in the book. Number 27. September 11th, 2001. This event is mentioned in the book.
That's all I say about it, but hey, CNN right there on the screen. So that's the running CNN gag number 2. What is and what was? In medias res, this is the event which caused him to enlist, I think is what the book says. So don't let the book fool you. So if this is true, this event belongs where that is. And that means this person is Taya. I do this to get attention, girl, is actually Taya. For this to be that, the script conveniently makes this person not Taya, is who it should be. Uh-oh. September 11th claims another victim. Oh. Guess who just proved something using the movie and the book? Tour number 1. A little bit of vocal acting there. Here comes some in medias res ending. Don't let the book fool you. Kid, right? The number 1 kill is the kid. The book explicitly states that he would not shoot an armed child. Next one. Visual joke. Amam, A-M-O-M, not imam, I-M-A-M. That could go on the bottom here. Could have an amount of fun with the rest of the frame as well. Like with a clean matte line like this, I could put stuff behind her dancing around back and forth. Doesn't matter. This is all digitally done anyway. Him and this guy over here speaking. Only 2 people in the shot. The only 2 people in the shot. There's tons of space for fun in this thing. More of the same. I'll hide that again for a minute. Oh, the next 4 items. So at the end of this one, it cuts to black at this point. I need to put up the text. The next 4 items are conglomerate, or like are a composited mess of stories which are found in the book. These next 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can say that this is true, this is true, this is true, and this is true, more or less. But at this point, none of this is true. Don't let the book fool you. Don't let the book fool you. Do you get it? So, don't let the book fool you. Bing goes up once we first see Mustafa. Every other time we see Mustafa from here out, there'll be a reference to the running CNN gag. Or that's where I think it really belongs. I got to try to stay ahead of that. Don't let the book fool you. Voice acting for Mark Lee there. Voice acting for Lee and Kyle. Voice acting for Kyle again. He's getting grilled over what a Quran is. This one, don't let the book fool you. Oh, I can't remember which one. Oh, it's about the nickname Legend. His nickname is actually Tex. So this guy's got to be saying, hey, Tex. And then this guy's going to say, shut your friggin' mouth, it'll get me killed. Or something along those lines. He doesn't become Legend till much later. Voice acting. Here and here. And here I've got an area labeled the sneaky product placement. Sneaky product placement is going to be a text element which floats between 2 shots on either side of this number being displayed. And when it does float, it'll float half onto this side of the image first. There'll be a little miniature version of it in the middle, above or around the number. And then on this side, the other half of the whatever it is. But when it gets to this point, we'll shrink it down again so that it fits onto the screen as it did on this point. What is that word? If you haven't guessed the word yet, I should probably turn the color off and zoom in. I'll zoom in. I mentioned it on a stream a couple days ago. What would the word be, do you think, that's half cut in, half cut out of each of the images? So it deserves a bit of a red title, right? It's the sexiest shot of a gun ever in a movie, right? Ooh. Is he talking about his wife or is he talking about his Remington? And she doesn't have a gun to be playing with. She just has a phone. He's got a earbud in. Running CNN gag. The running CNN gag. Let's hear this running CNN gag.
Headshed briefing on Al Qaeda assets and local power structure. Number 1 dude, Zarqawi.
So, as I read this image, my idea for this one, I'm going to explain it before I ever get to it. My idea for this one is to have found in advance a series of elements that I can replace the actual footage from this still shot with for something else. For example, this person's face I could replace with a CNN anchor's face in profile. And or this face and all of these faces. But if I want to do that replacement, what I'm going to do, I might not paste it on. Obviously, there's no animation required. This is still shot. But I could put an animated like box around it to identify it, and then overlay the image of the replacement face as if facial recognition to recognize this was actually something else or someone else. And in each case, it would be a CNN, 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 CNN. Like this could be Brian Stelter. This one, I'm not sure who. This could be Mark Zuckerberg. It could be anybody. Could be anybody. It's definitely not Zarqawi. None of them are. Zarqawi is this guy who's sitting there watching it. What? Voice acting here again. We also have another running CNN gag. The reason is that the information being delivered is all about Mustafa, and it appears from the image itself that this dude is reading some kind of a device which is delivering him fake news. Is that another Remington? Is that the same one? All right, this is the one about payback. This one requires a bit of looking around, digging around online first before I can really do it. But I'll do it on stream, the work of itself, the actual stuff. In this one, I say that the book makes Chris Kyle. He's pretty outspoken on his views on cowardice in particular, and what he would do to a coward. So I say this particular person makes George Patton look a bit like Shirley Temple in comparison. He's way more extreme than even George Patton was when it comes to cowardice. And remember, I'm looking for scenes where he looks a bit like Robin Williams. He does not look much like Robin Williams there to me. That is not a Good Morning, Mr. Williams shot. Like this one is. Do you get it? Funny how the character of this shot and this shot is almost different, even though it's the same bloody person. In one he looks like Robin Williams, in one he does not. Proof of the lizard on film, I don't know. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm really not saying anything like that. I'm merely being facetious. That is not a Robin Williams morning. I don't, and it should be, right? Neither is that one. This one you can't tell because he's behind the gun. This is the Kyle American like interrogation sniper. He drill. This is a tricky one. I think there should be some kind of visual elements. This is probably the running CNN gag because this is all fictional. Because none of this is true. This is all technically territory for the running CNN gag. Including this, and by the time we get up to here, you can see I'm ready for it. Somewhat including that. The phone is in the book. Chris Kyle Pilgrim, or Billy Kyle Pilgrim. He gets unstuck in time. The things that he says, the things that the book say that he did, like calling Tayo while in the middle of a gunfight or going into one, that is in the book. And she talks about it in the book too. Both of them talk in the book. The running CNN gag. Oh yeah, CNN in this image is represented well by this tiny little mirror of someone that someone's using to peek around a wall rather than exposing themselves to any kind of fire. And they're decoding everything about what is true in reality about a mirror which is convex and has a label on it saying images in the mirror may be closer than they appear. Look at what he says. Look at what he sees in the shot. It's all himself. All he sees in himself that he's getting reality from. What the? CNN gag. Also running CNN gag. This is the one that has the ramped up psychology joke. So I think there's going to be a bunch of replaced faces for different CNN characters. Again, Brian Stelter, I think, would fit really well there. Brian Stelter is Mustafa. We can find someone to put here. I don't know what it would be. Maybe Don Lemon. I think Don Lemon would look really good there. Don Lemon's... I might only need to change the color of his skin. He kind of look like Don Lemon. Then I'll put Don Lemon with an arrow off the side. Don Lemon. Who could these people be? I don't know. Reverse angle, much the same last shot. So we get like a close-up there. Another close-up. People with their hands up already. Like, oh, wailing. Drilling the leg. Mustafa fires. Getting Brian Stelter with his eyes closed, that'd be pretty easy. Ricochets off the helmet. I was thinking about using President Trump's hair for the helmet, but mother joke. That would make sense. It's totally out of order. The dog on the roof, I think Wolf Blitzer. Wolf, woof, woof. And there'll be a Wolf Blitzer image. That would be a good idea. This is product placement. Big product placement shot. Gets them in there. And there's also like a environmentally conscious joke with Mustafa at the same moment in time. Don't let the book fool you. The gym versus porn. This one here. The Oscar nomination for the Best Supporting Sunset Sequence. Because the other one was when they were all running up the beach. The Best Supporting Sunset Sequence. And they're actually in each other's arms and stuff. People are walking past them and it's like there's depth of field. And, oh. And it's like you can't even see them clearly because of all the fucking people. Sorry. Voice acting. I got an alien growing inside of me. This kind of demands some kind of a response in visual terms. I don't know what it would be. Maybe I want to cut in another movie entirely at this point. That would be funny. Just a little tiny taste of alien popping out of a chest. Oh yeah, don't let the book fool you. Decompression is... So putting down decompression under here versus depression. Or something like that. PTSD versus depression. And compression. Any number of words could start popping onto the screen at this during this sequence. That's the way I perceive these black markers. Voice acting. Here between the two of them. Oh yeah, because they're at the Obgyn before that. These three, I don't know if they're in the book clearly or not, but if they are, then this had to have been during his between his third and fourth deployment when this baby is his daughter, not his son. For this to be anywhere near true. For this to be anywhere near true, it had to have been closer to his third or fourth tour, and the baby is the daughter, not the son. For this moment to even be possibly true. I think. Funny, right? It's in the book. Because he knew about his blood pressure. And he talks about getting his blood pressure checked. Why did he check it? Or how did he check it? How did he even know? Was it a doctor told him? No, wasn't. Tour number 2 begins. Got voice acting. We got a few little things. Oh yeah, all the Kyle is here. Kyle. Anyone who says Kyle. Kyle, what the hell are you doing? Chawing the fat with that sumbitch. Get over here. That kind of thing. And this is all the Kyle number 2. I should have renamed that one. Well, Kyle on the poster. Really, this could also be another one of the CNN running gags. So there's a CNN running gag coming up here. This guy, product placement is a mention for PowerPoint. Voice acting between these two gentlemen. Mostly the Mark Lee part. I said so many of the Mark Lee lines through the process of doing this. I think I'm also going to do a reading of Mark Lee's last letter. Running CNN gag as they do the DA operation, because this is not anywhere near what the book says. None of this is in the book. None of it, including finding the Major League Arms cache. The only thing the book describes is all the different weapons that the book that Kyle himself used, not what he found or stole. Here we go. Hup terp. Okay, hup terp, 3 terp. So there'll be a visual jokes involving the word terp. Hup terp. I kind of like. Hup terp to be appearing above their heads as if they're marching in. Hup, yelling hup terp. Where's the terp? Or God knows who the terp or where the terp is. I also had another one earlier, which was prelude to terp. I think it's this one. No. This one's the Surgeon General's warning. Prelude to terp. Oh, right. Prelude to terp. I might have, terp appearing above these guys' heads as if they're thinking about something else entirely, while this guy says sir as if it means something. Who is the sir that he is referring to? Find the sir in the room. Okay? These two guys are thinking derp during the length of this little shot. Or the word terp. So that when this second joke occurs, farther down the line, involving the terpus, this terp joke, it'll be funnier. There'll be 2 terps earlier and then 3 terps to follow. Bicycle, tricycle. Yay. That's this person. That's this person. Not in tour number 2. Is any of this information didn't occur in tour number 2. Most of what occurred for Kyle occurred during the last period of his time. Tours number 3 and then tour number 4. Again, Kyle speaking. This is strong candidate for CNN running gag, and there's so much darkness on the screen it might be easy. Shh, don't speak too loudly. Anderson Cooper might overhear. Something like that. Anything at all to make light of the fact. We got product placement here. You see right over there. Look. These are funny sets of shots as this is a homecoming sequence at number 99 and 100. Product placement, obviously, throughout it, but I ain't going to mark it out every time it occurs. This dialogue and this dialogue and this dialogue are very questionable and designed to make a person like this normally very uncomfortable. I find his reaction here, I find Kyle's reaction throughout the sequence, including this, to be mostly due to the fact that this guy expressed interest in this guy. If I were him. Because who the hell is he? You don't know. Well, he's a vet and he's wounded and okay. Still. And then we get this at the end, a little joke. Grab your lizard there. Oh, right. The toy. And then the end part of the joke is your sister is what he's talking about as they walk out of this part. They walk out of the, well, it must be, it looks like a garage. They're getting the tires changed. Okay. They walk out of here and he's talking about going to see mom and baby sister. Baby sister arrives at the beginning of tour number 3, huh? Or at the, hang on, was it the end or beginning? Oh, I can't remember anymore. Here's baby sister. A little bit of talking. Here comes tour number 3. So, as I said, remember his blood pressure? The blood pressure part at the beginning of tour 2? Back here somewhere, was it? Because you know the baby wasn't born then. And is already his blood pressure, right? No, that's the sister. That makes more sense. If it's going into tour 3 or around about there, because the amount of time required and the kid, the son, is chronologically accurate, more close to his own proper age. Oops, sorry about that, Biggles. The son's more appropriately close to his age back here. When the sister is being born. But yet, you know, he's only been overseas for 250 days. Why is the kid this old? Why? How could the kid have got that old? Was she trade him up or something? Who the fuck are you, Bubba? In other words. His entire period of time home is measured from here basically to there. Unless it be measured in the rest of the movie, I submit to you, there's no way that this movie ever can even work. It's just not possible. You'd have to buy bullshit of the nth degree to think there's any kind of truth to what this sequences are. They don't make sense. Voice acting mostly. There's an Oscar nod here though. Biggles had the ring. So yeah. Jokes involving the Lord of the Rings or the Ring Saga or the Rhine Gold. Anything like that. Epic joke. Epic joke how they even changed the name of the soldier who bit it from Job to Biggles. Biggles had the ring part 2. Now we get the direction in this space of Biggles' ability to act right here. He's happy. He ain't so happy. He's happy. He ain't so happy. We see a lot of this pose. Kind of looks like, kind of looks a little, just a little bit there like Robin Williams, just a little more than average. There, not so much. Remember now, I'm looking for the Robin Williams shots. Not there either. He ain't in any of these shots. He's close there to Robin Williams, but he's got more of a, how do I explain it here? He's more like a, oh man, what's his name? Oh, Jürgen Prochnow. More like a Jürgen Prochnow than a Robin Williams. Or there's another guy too. Who's that guy in Platoon, man? Yeah, the one with the scarred up face. What was his name, man? Tom Berenger, is it? Berenger? I think it's Tom Berenger. Pretty sure. Tom Berenger. I'm going to guess. Tom Berenger. Yeah, that'll be a guess. And I figured, hey, I'm going to explain it out before I ever get to work here because it's going to take a while to go through it. Double funeral. Lee's letter is a point of contention the book raises between him. So this is ostensibly true, this discussion with him and his wife on the way home from the funeral. But the way the book describes what occurred is not what the film shows on the screen. There's no reason to avoid it. The book described it well enough. And then reading Lee's letters is kind of important, so I'm willing to do that as part of this project. Good morning, Mr. Williams. And if you don't believe me, good morning, Mr. Williams. So there is like a double whammy of it here. Product placement. Spot the product placement. It's the cute, memorable Iraqi kid. That's right. T-wall operation. Followed by a CNN bump. And, excuse me. The jockiest face in a supporting role nod for the movie. The jockiest face in a supporting role. Here's the jockiest guy in the movie. He is the jockiest. So he got an Oscar nod for the jockiest face in a supporting role. Can you tell why? If you do not believe me, he was introduced in this scene of the movie. Tour fucking 4. Right after it begins. That's why the CNN bump is in here too. We get another one of these. Oh, this is the T-wall operation. Product placement. Yep, it's the Predator drone. The conglomero scene. Don't let the book fool you. And the reason is that the information being delivered by the audio track at this point is due to the book. The book is what told me that this was true. So many of the things that I'm saying here, they're true if you consider the book as being true. They're true to what the book says. I'm not saying that's the actual truth. I'm merely saying that this is what the book says, which means this guy is Chris Kyle if you read the book. The guy is calling the shots, but they're pinning it on jock-faced newbie to get the sympathy. Great big CNN gag. This could be CNN getting pegged. This could be a CNN joke of epic proportions. This also refers to the fact that the book, the way the book describes this event, this didn't actually occur. This was Chris Kyle's opinion of what would occur if some brave private was to climb up the ladder. So if the movie presents it as true, we should understand as an audience, Chris Kyle dreamed that event up. It didn't actually occur. It was what his opinion was of what would happen if and when some brave private climbed up the ladder. That's why it's a running CNN gag joke. Spot the anonymous source. Spot the anonymous source, and if you don't get it, if you think I'm pointing to you, when I point an arrow there, the arrow might actually fall down. Even though, it all falls down. Anyway. Jockiest face, ladies and gentlemen, is in the book. Sorta is in the book. Eh? Aim small, miss small. Bam. Product placement. Jockiest face has his next moment. So for the next time he appears, we'll call back the jock face Jock Face's wise ass nod. It's when this guy turns his face over. Look. He's so good in the role that this guy, you know, pretends to be listening to him while he's looking through a snipe like a scope. I got nothing better to do. You know, what the fuck did you just say? I got nothing better to do. What the fuck did you just say? What the fuck did he just say?
Bites. 157. Now we're fucked like a football bat. Equals an Oscar nod for the best supporting wise ass.
So that's down here in the text already. There could be other things leading up to the fact that there's more jock face action here than is possibly required. Jock face, jock face, jock face, jock face. Oh no. This is a CSGO joke. It's beautiful. Here's another running CNN gag. Let's listen.
Storm from nowhere. Sandstorm from nowhere.
This guy could be a CNN anchor instead. Could be that he's listening to CNN when he's staring off to space, right? Hey guys, I'm watching this on CNN. I think it's true.
Because that's what drama is all about. Especially in Sada City on the day that Kyle killed Mustafa. One.
CNN gag needs to be on screen for that to really make it funny. Jock face with the heads up nod.
And the Oscar for the most head up tactical genius in military history who knows by Wi-Fi that the fastest 20 minutes out rescue convoy is now only 3 blocks away. 2 minutes later goes to...
Yeah, very, very special guy that. Oh, more jock face.
64. Jockface has been in the shit too long. You can hear it in his voice.
As if it wasn't funny enough, now we have to sympathize with him.
The way he says Niner, but his jerk back to camera is hardly wasted. The 1,000-yard stare
was practically the same shot as that one. Right? Look at all this wealth of imagery I've got to deal with this guy crouched down in his own piss in the sand. Right? God damn. Yeah, a little bit of voice acting for one of these two gentlemen. A little bit of, you know, overhead. I don't know who the hell's voice acting that is. That's overdubbed anyway. Oh, the luckiest frag grenade in Iraq. Oh, the Lost Rifles is in the book, but the story is different in the book. The Lone Wolf is in the book, story is different in the book. Tiger Woods' loot is what he's doing when he's sitting watching a TV screen. Not this. Oh, I missed one. There's an important one earlier. Do you remember right after his son was born? Remember when his son was born? I remember when his son was born. The very next thing he does is sit down and watch the TV. Remember that? Remember the very next thing he does? This is a piracy warning.
73. Kyle watches Mustafa's snuff films. While the book does mention the existence of such films, it only ever admits to Kyle viewing pirated DVDs he bought while in Iraq. Number 7.
That's a piracy warning. That is now what a piracy warning looks like if you play with the military-industrial complex. That's my contention.
73.
I mean to put that visually on the screen.
Kyle watches Mustafa's snuff films. While the book does mention the existence of such...
So the thing to make the joke really funny is to explain what I mean by what I'm saying with a couple of words and then let what I'm saying unpack it. Piracy warning. And the piracy warning happens to use a snuff film rather than talk about the fact that Kyle admits in his book to having stolen or having purchased bootleg movies. He didn't steal them, he merely paid somebody money for a bootleg movie. Would be much better, really, if you think about it, to just get a copy for absolutely nothing. Then if the people that think they're owed something by that come after you for it, well, did I really add it? Get a copy? I don't have it anymore. It's not like I sold it to anybody else. What's the crime? Oh, it's intellectual property. That's a whole other barrel of wax. All other barrel of wax and a ball of fish. It's a whole other barrel of wax and a ball of fish besides. I like the sound of that. That is a whole other barrel of fish, barrel of wax, and a ball of fish besides. I'm going to take a quick break now that this has been going well for about an hour. And how far up the chain was I? Oh yeah, I was past the Jock Face's last hurrah, which means about to here, which means about to there, because it's just a birthday party, which is a bunch of Herzog-like rambling, dealing with the fact that this all actually is in the book. I'm not going to contend that it wasn't in the book, but the awkward Kyle bit, that wasn't in the book. Excuse me. I have a break sign. Let me find a little bit of music. Something to stick in the background. Not on the Droid phone. Hey, we need music. Go to music for a second. None of that's useful here. I need recording, really. Go to distortion. Going to use Chris Osmond again tonight, because I know reliably where I can find things. The end of one song and the beginning of another cometh. I'll be right back.
A little bit of tragedy here for you. Patty's Day. I didn't even see no green beer yet. What is this? God damn. It's a travesty. But it's alright though. Hope you guys are enjoying your St. Patty's. It's the best drinking holiday of the year in my opinion. Here's a little tune now we're gonna try by Cream, a song called Outside Woman Blues. Am I festive enough, guys? I don't know. I think I need some more shamrocks or something. Here's a little tune by Cream, released back in '69. You get some original material now. Over the past couple of years, I released a few albums, you know, a little bit of music from each one. And a bit of new material tonight too, as well, some stuff people never heard before. First start off one of my favorites. A little tune by, well, it's an original actually. It's a song called Workin' Blues, a song I wrote a few years back. Money working 9 to 5. I do what I can so I can stay alive. Well, I got my baby, she's just 4 years old. Gotta try and keep her out of the rain and the cold. Well, you see those women who just walk those streets.
Thanks, Chris Osmond. Chris Osmond's blues project is called the Blue Mood, I believe. Chris Osmond's Blue Mood. You can have a search for them on. I'll put this in the text in the chat. Chris Osmond, Blue Mood. I uploaded a couple videos for him a while back. You might see some other stuff on YouTube for him as well. Local band. Local to the province, not necessarily local to the city. Not that that much matters. Hey everybody, I'm back. Just thinking about this before I get back into describing what it is I'm just about finished describing, because as you can see, there's not a lot extra to be added to the last part. Although I have been thinking about what types of running gag I've also dropped since the beginning. Like, there's not a lot of these arrow sequences, like here. But there's a big arrow here. He's being exploited. Here's the doctor we've just been looking at for the last 2 or 3 sequences. He's the arrow in this picture. He's the exploiter of Kyle. If you haven't noticed. That's why this is marked green. It's not really green like cool at all. I'm merely saying I've used red for some things and green for other things and yellow for other things. And in the case of the green and the red, these colors will be used in the final project. Yellow, I'm not sure how or if I will. Other than I might put some kind of a halo around them or something, I don't know. Or maybe I can do it the opposite direction. Anyway, lots of talking in advance. Before I get back to the project at hand, yeah, well, let me speak about something else entirely. And yeah, the timing. The thing I want to speak about is something I think is worth handing down, worth speaking about again. And I didn't start speaking about this, but I have recently read, which in my way of thinking is much like speaking about something. Recently read an essay by George Orwell. And in the essay, he speaks quite frankly about how he considers the proper cup of tea to be made. And I think it's funny that he went to such extreme lengths as to write a short essay about the process of making tea, if only to educate some of the people that he was regularly being read by about how he considered tea. That was his experience of how tea would be made and how it's best made. in our modern environment, it's been reduced to the number of bags that you put into a pot, essentially, if you use it at all. And many people drink 1 tea bag per cup of hot water, which is quite a lot of tea to a cup of hot water. To wit, I'd like to describe to the chat and to anyone who might be watching the stream. My name, James PFP. I go by James. You can call me James if you ever get to talking to me. Oh, right. Discord. If you're watching, what I consider to be a proper pot of tea is 3 tea bags with as much water as the pot will hold. Give it a stir after you've introduced hot water to it. Give it a stir up, let it sit. Let it sit for a while, let it steep. Stir it again before you serve it. Sometimes that's cool too. Stirring is something that George Orwell taught me. It's better stirred, yes it is. But after you've poured off a pot, like a cup's full, like a large cup, I use a very large mug. That's my tea mug here. It's not as large as some mugs. I've drank out of mugs like that too, but after I've poured off 1 mug's worth, I start introducing water to whatever I pour off from that point onward. So 3 tea bags gets me way more than 3 cups of tea. Way more. And in that way, I limit the amount of caffeine that I would have normally gotten from those 3 tea bags to a much greater amount of hot water during a longer period of time. And by cutting it in the evening, you can go to bed after having a cup of tea that's weaker than as strong as the tea, but it will still have much the same flavor, even cut with hot water. So this one I just poured it's got very little hot water in it compared to the rest, because it's most of the rest at the bottom of the pot. It's going to wake me up a little, but not much. And you can hear the creaking in the background. I think that is the ongoing windstorm. We've got an ongoing windstorm in the locality. Hey, I got to do this. So while I do it, I'm going to pop over this. I have to log into Discord again. I got logged off when the I'm still on. Excellent. Huh. Direct messages. Right on. Hey, what's going on here? Huh. So I was spending a lot of time today in Hard Bastards chat room. That's where I mentioned it in the previous stream. It's where I saw Styx Hexenhammer. I last saw the man live and moving amongst the masses, the adoring masses. And there are many masses. I don't think I would have actually started watching Styx as regularly as I have if it hadn't been for Hard Bastard, who routinely mentioned that Styx is a good source of information for some media criticism. I did this by mistake at the end. Well, not really by mistake, since the point is there is product placement here. If I add this color, you can see this. This is the first one I won't have to do much other than this. This color is set to add with an opacity value. I can make that 1, turn it bright red. I like it a little darker than bright red, so that the white still pops out. And this gives me many ideas of what I could do here. This makes me feel a bit like a Kubrick moment. Oh, I could have a bunch of colors here. I could have like a rainbow leading up to this. Or I could have even a Tarantino flip. Deet, 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 you know? Or maybe red and blue flashing back and forth during the length here. You know? Anyway. In short, to make it a more interesting scene than it originally was in the movie. Or to maybe even suggest that there's a crime being committed. that the blue and red lights are flashing. So the length of time that last clip is on screen gives me a long period of time to actually do that. This is currently 3 seconds long, this clip. So I'm going to start at the end just because I can. I'll snap it here. Make that a second long. Hey, maybe a second is too long. Maybe a second of flashing red and blue. I don't know if this is going to work out too terribly well. Snap it over a little bit. Go to the end of it. Give it maybe a third of a second. And I'm going to duplicate it once and snap it here. Everything else is the same about these two clips, right? I'm going to change this to a blue color. So now this is what will happen. Hang on a second. I can hear you thinking it. Hang on a second, Jim. That's not really strobing fast enough to get a good effect. I kind of agree with you. The gap between is too long compared to the length of time that the color is on screen. I agree. So I'll go back 10 frames, 20, 30 is the total number of frames, right? I could make it a half a second long. 15 frames in length. Same for this one. Give it the same 10 frame gap in between. How's this play? Much better. I think the gap is good. The length of the color probably no longer than 23. And yeah, the gap got taken up that time by the fact that I expanded one of the strips. And I don't think it needs to be quite that short, which is why I like the previous gap much better. Yes, much better. Haha. Is there a way I could quickly get around the process of having to copy these manually one at a time? Sure there is. Select them both holding the shift key. So I right click the first one, shift, right click the second one. Both are highlighted now. Shift D duplicates both. Holding shift to make sure I get it on the right frame. So now I've got 4 of those suckers. Same is true for these two. They're already highlighted, but I can duplicate them once and find where that last frame is. There we go. Go to the last frame. Duplicate them again. But of course I had to go forward 10 frames before I really can. Grabbing them, moving them back, sliding them with precision with shift. Go to that one, forward 10, duplicate, bring it over. Holding shift for precision there. Forward 10, duplicate once. Look at that. You would almost think I'd planned that out from the very beginning. I really can't take the credit for it, but yeah, maybe a little. I didn't get the idea from anyone else. That's true. Other than, you know, Eastwood and, well, I guess the NRA and, well, whoever else. Here we go. I made a little alteration just to make that a little more like this. And that gets us back to the beginning of the project. So the only sequence I haven't got any plans even mapped out for is the very first minute of the project. Of the entirety. And it's a long project. It's 45 minutes worth of video. We're pretty close to it. So there is a lot to add in to what I've already done. But I needed to make at least a series of this kind of a series of sketches of whatever it is, you know, write down some of the ideas so that they're put down on the project. Now I can follow the lead that I've put out for myself and put specific things in each of the positions. 3 tea bags to a pot of tea, and you'll get more than 3 cups out of it. Use a pot of water, you'll probably boil 2 kettles to a pot of tea. Easily cutting it and spreading it around. I like the cut tea. Boy, oh boy. Bit rate, it said was 48 kilohertz, right? Kilobytes per second. Yeah, that'll work for now. Very picky about what its settings are. It's curious. I'm very happy with what Blender seems to have done so far, and I haven't actually checked what the release notes are. I think I might want to do that before I get any further. This may be a little bit iffy. Blender 2.79 release notes. In this release, cycles, built-in denoising shadow catcher, grease pencil, new frame interpolation tools. Nice. Per layer onion skinning. That's nice too. $23 new and several updated add-ons. I'm going to look through my add-ons listing again. Whoa, that might include screencasting. Oh man, I better look. Various issues with drivers for, oh, this is important. I'm using a Linux version, but this will be true for anybody using it on any platform. So if you're interested in Blender as a program, you might want to have a look at some of these things. Due to various issues with drivers for AMD GCN 1.0 architecture, these cards are no longer supported for cycles rendering. That is important if you're interested in doing cycles work, which gives you a, what do they call it? You can do HDR work there, but you also do photorealistic rendering. Much the same manner as a RenderMan. When using add-ons for Blender 2.79 to take advantage of the new data block pointer properties, resulting blend files can't be opened in earlier versions of Blender. So you can't, it's not backward compatible. Attempting to open such a blend in Blender 2.78C and earlier may crash, which is the last version I was using, C. Some interface themes may need to be reloaded to work properly. I haven't changed mine, so it doesn't need to be changed or fooled with. Text color contained in the layout box, the layout dot box. What's that? How would you call that? That's a function. Now defined in user preferences, themes, and user interface box section. Rig compatibility. Okay, I'm not too worried about that. Cycles rendering. Here's some more information about that particularly. Application templates define reusable configuration for user interface. Do I need to talk about any of this? Nope. Custom shortcuts for keyframing and drivers. That might be nice. There's a big section for customizing this interface. Okay, new tools for interpolation between grease pencil frames is not explained too much. Mesh modeling, new surface deform modifier to transfer motion from another mesh. That's interesting. So now I could have a mesh get deformed when a ball rolls into it, for example. Improved displace and mirror modifiers. That's nice too. Displace is good for using a black and white, say, map of a. You could use a black and white map as a height map, and displace some surface to make it look like the surface was a geography. Mirror modifier. It copies from one side to the other. Animation, pose library reordering and keying for selected bones only. Better undo for frame changes. Various small new tools and options. More features. Video encoding settings have been simplified. They have. Along with the addition of a constant rate factor. Bing, ba, ba, bum, 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 bum. That's good news. Blender render and GSL viewport support for object info, layer weight, and Fresnel shading modes or nodes. That's kind of neat. Python API. Custom properties pointing data blocks like objects. Okay, that's interesting. Render engine add-ons now add custom render passes, inserting custom items in right-click menus. I've kind of noticed that. Add-ons, new Dynamic Sky, Arc Pack, Magic UV, Mesh Edit Tools. That's an updated one. Or it finally made it into the actual database again. Okay, let's look at the updated first. Collada Pavre, that's an old rendering engine. Object is a importing library. Rigify is a library which helps automatically rig characters you do in 3D. Ant Landscape's pretty neat. Blender ID, Node Wrangler's fun too. Actually, Node Wrangler's a really neat one. Dynamic Sky. Whoa. For HDR renders. Magic UV. Mesh Edit Tools. Skinify. Haha, that's nice. Display Tools. Brush menus, not bad. B-Trace. That might be interesting. Is key free? Turnaround camera. Oh, my, that looks fun. Auto mirror, camera rig, snap utils, add advanced objects. Export paper model. As in, it will export a image which you print, which will show you how to fold whatever it was you did in paper. So it's a UV unwrapped for export paper model. Very neat. Store views, render clay. I wonder what that is. Refined tracking solution. Oh, that might be nice. I've been looking for that one for a long time. Auto tracker for camera tracking. Mesh tissues, cell fracture crack it. That's kind of neat too. They have a Blender's always had a built-in function for calculating cells and stuff. So cell fracture crack it might be really fun. Doesn't mention the video sequence editor too much. I haven't noticed any other changes other than the output. But I did notice the output had changed. And it is quite significant. It's a good change. When was this released? It's been accessed almost 500,000 times. I'm pretty sure it was released a while ago. There's no sense for me to even look up a date on the source of the page here because that's not how it works anymore. This was posted at a certain point in time. Accessed about 500,000 times. Very cool though. Very cool to see a new version of Blender during the holiday season, even if I missed it by a month or two. To have waited till now to upgrade it has been fun. So some of these green, in fact, all of the green, they look kind of forlorn and left out of this. This is things which I could be pointing out. Things on screen which could be pointed out other than with text. Like there might be a good place for green arrow here somewhere. There's probably one here somewhere. If not, there's definitely a bunch here for green arrows. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. The green arrow thing will become easier to spot once I start doing it. Things to be pointed out for long-term consideration. That these guys spend a lot of time together. Him and Mark Lee more than almost anybody else. Certainly more than Biggles. Biggles spends time teasing him. Pointing things out. This is I think going to be a CNN, just between a bunch of CNN jokes, but there needs to be some kind of visual humor involving the arm and the drill. But before he says the word drill, I want to give the impression of something else going into the arm. That's why I think CNN joke. It's a good spot for a CNN joke to make it, lateral. Nothing to be pointed out there, I don't think. Certainly not a Robin Williams moment. Certainly not there either. Certainly not there either. Again, Mark Lee in the shot with him. Or the guy playing Mark Lee. Again, Mark Lee. And when I went through the movie last to pick out all of these still shots, I was very careful to find the ones which spoke the highest to me in terms of I can get away with one shot to tell this entire story. One picture is worth 1,000 words. Or more. Mark Lee once again. So yeah, one of the big losers in the movie is Mark Lee, I think. One of the people whose credit is hit the hardest is Mark Lee. Because of what he probably would have said about, I think, what he would have said about Kyle. And maybe the letter makes it more clear to anybody. You can be a stone cold murderer and be praised for it. Robin Williams? No, I don't see any Robin Williams here. I'm looking for the Robin Williams shots. I may have missed a bunch because I didn't go, anally looking for every one of them. But I guaranteed got a few of them by mistake or by pure luck. That looks like Biggles here. Ambush, getting ambushed. Oh yeah, that is Biggles. That was Biggles. Yeah, like I said, Jurgen Prochnow and maybe Tom Berenger. But definitely not Brad Cooper and definitely not Chris Kyle. Mark Lee. A lot of reverse angle shots here. Camera gradually pans around in that one. Eyes Wide Shut would be an excellent way of describing this movie. More than one person in the movie does this kind of delivery. Eyes Wide Shut. Robin Williams? No. Nowhere near it. But, bam. Just like that. He just gets this faraway look on his face, and next thing you know, he's fucking Rob Williams. Right? Like, what the hell? Something weird with that. I mean, it needs to be pointed out. How to play a game a little bit like... I played the game a little bit like Anita. Yeah. Okay. I'm thinking about the ways people might criticize what I just spoke. If you're wondering why I laugh at some of my own jokes a little bit late. Why I laugh at them at all and don't worry about it. How else could what I've just said be interpreted? How else is it likely to be interpreted? Oh, he's pretty close to Robin Williams there. No, this Jockface. Jockface ruining everything. Fuck off, Jockface. Not so much there. No, again, Jockface. The phone call. Nope. Good morning, Mr. Williams. And of course, immediately after he shaves his beard. Once he shaves his beard, the Robin Williams look ceases to work. Just, you can't get it anymore. See that? It's impossible. Even though when he was babyface first, he pulled it off. When he has his goatee, just gone. It's like cinematic magic how it goes between that and that. You know what I mean? Just magic. Look how fun it looks. Ooh. They're here. And then, of course, kind of draws your attention to where you should look next, right? Funny thing is, there is no obvious brand. Oh. Oh. This is my this one really needs some kind of text on screen, but the delivery in and of itself was the joy in it. I don't think it needs any more help.
79. Lazy screenwriters should be taken out behind the hovels wherein they reside, the filthy, broken down flophouse hovels that they are, and summarily beaten to death with a Nerf bat for writing "Look at you" in a screenplay. 108.
And that's it, right? Yeah, awkward Kyle. The doctor in this scene is for us, not for Kyle. That's the semantic content of this little bump. So I wonder what other things might be waiting to be looked at here. Science and human behavior. The review of psychology. Oh, I see, I see. I don't see Catch-22 anywhere. The fuck is that? Like, what does he keep there? The poker for the fire or what? Dialogue, 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 dialogue. No dialogue for Buddy at the end. That's his reaction. His reaction is much the same as his beginning. He obviously uses the pills. And then we got him in the background, leaning confidently and making absolutely no different face whatsoever. Botox product placement. Fuck is that? Is that like a condom machine? Oh, no. Huh? This one's important. Gung Ho. Gung Ho NRA. This is an easy one. This is an easy one in terms of explaining what I think I'm going to add to the screen. Whenever the voice part gets added, there'll be three visual elements introduced. One will be an N pattern here. One will be an R pattern here. One will be an A pattern here. N, R, A. N, R, A. Back it to the left a little too far for you? I don't know. I get the very strong impression of the letter N here, the letter R here, or even R that way. It's pattern-seeking behavior, sure. A here. It's very obvious. The fact that he's standing like this, as if he's at ease, but a little too much at ease. If I was to measure from his shoulder straight down, his ankles on the outside of his shoulder line, I would expect those ankles in at least fucking 4 inches on both sides for this to not be deliberate, to be properly at ease. Call me dictator, call me whatever you want. Call me a penny ante generalissimo, I don't care. Penny Annie. Call me a Penny Annie. Call me a Penny Annie. General Lissimo. Christ, I have the most fun with my own self. Just call me. I gotta put that into another place here. I'm too busy working on my future as a Penny Annie Generalissimo. Cross-pollination, ladies and gentlemen. It's over in the Discord. Hey, if you're wondering about Discord, it's a service which allows people to chat in a way that YouTube chat currently don't. Would also allow for a call-in facility, so to speak. I could allow more than one person to participate by voice in the Banjocast. If someone had a direct question about something, or if they wanted to discuss the implications of something, voice to voice, can be done. But I would be interested in doing that while the stream was occurring. Of course, it doesn't have to occur on stream, but it would be better for me, I think, if it were, so that if anyone had any other questions or corrections, I might expect it. Is that a Robin Williams face I see? So close, so close. But no. Again, we get this. Last time we saw that was with Biggles, I think. Last time I pointed it out. But that's an arrow, right? That's an arrow. Look at this, though. Another one of those. Look for the NRA poses in these pictures. Look for the subliminal arrangements. This is a funny truth that's told here. She give me crazy love. The other side of the coin is Kyle is the one described as the prankster. This scene ends with him grabbing her as if it was all his idea. And he turns the prank on her, in other words. The other thing is, of course, she's in the book. Not only talked about, but she's one of the authors of the book. She's partly given credit in the book. Like, her voice is kept separate and identified in the book. Her voice is kept separate and identified. I'm working on my Walter Matthau. How's it sound? It doesn't think so much sound to it. Probably when he was older, he sounded more like that. I'm working on my Walter Matthau because I saw a failsafe. If I can get the Walter Matthau down, it'll be perfect. At the beginning of Failsafe, Walter Matthau's voice has a definite Bostonian or northeastern seaboard edge to it. Centering around Cape Cod. But as the movie goes on, it becomes more and more not that. Don't worry about anything, Mr. President. We'll figure it out here on the back of this napkin. Just give me a moment. 25 million plus or minus. Carry the 2. And can I borrow your slide rule, please? Yes, Dr. Grossenpfeffer. Or whatever his name is. I'd like to figure this out. Hey, hang on a sec. Let me go out in my car here. I got a dame left out there. I belted her earlier and slugged her. She's still out cold. Watch Failsafe. Watch Failsafe. I'm making a Failsafe reference. Failsafe has lots of interesting people in it. A lot of interesting people. If I do say so. People I wouldn't expect to see in movies. People I didn't expect. I was like, oh my God. Dana Elcar, what the hell is he doing in there? He has a single scene. Like, Larry Hagman, what the hell is he doing in there? He's in a lot of the movie. But his name is Buck. And he has no last name. Buck is a nameless Non-entity otherwise. He is a familyless, propertyless orphan. Who lives in the brave new world after the failsafe has failed. If the failsafe fails, what do you call it? If the failsafe fails and you're no longer safe, that's for damn sure. That's for sure. That is for sure to me, anyhow. Yeah, I'm taking a little bit of a broadcaster break before I get back into the process of editing, and I might not get a whole heck of a lot of the editing done tonight. See, the stream is up here. There are no viewers to the stream, at least for now. I'm sure there's lots of them like that. I've got this video waiting to be watched. It's a half hour long. I might get back to it later. And yeah, you might be wondering why. Geez, Jim, you watch much of that stuff? I'm like, nah. I've watched a few of them. I like the longer ones. The longer ones give me more to think about. I try not to thumb them up or down any more than I would any normal, particularly absolute position. And Al Quan is a very absolute position. Or maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe you'll correct me. I called him out in 2 videos ago. In the comment section. I didn't really call him out either, but I challenged what he was saying at the particular moment in time to say, hang on now. If Star Wars is a British invasion, well, it started in 1977. Let's be honest. And if it's a British invasion, that would explain why he liked Kurosawa as well as he did. Lucas, I mean. The only market that would even considered giving him the kind of breaks as an independent producer that he got was the British market at the time. Movie making. So he got made in Pinewood. Tunisia. Tunisia was German, wasn't it, until the war? Watched the Justicar video the other day too, and that was quite interesting. Let me have a look at the history. What's the history say? Like I said, I've watched a few funny ones in the last little while. Hard news. Sent this one over to Lionel today, the Nuts SS one. Blender VSE sound editing overview. I watched that one last night just to be sure I understood exactly what was going on with Blender. And I sent this to Lionel today as well, which is, why are you talking about Bitcoin without talking about pretty good privacy? Because it seems to me the two go well hand in hand, pretty much. They go right together. Peas and carrots. Hard news today was really cool. I have to admit. A couple of interesting stories, a bit of minimum to the video. There's not a lot going on in the video side. Much of it is the what filtered news can we actually get. I saw something interesting last night on the news, Hard News Network. I actually should copy it over. If there was anybody watching and in the chat room, I would actually do that. I'd copy it over if you hadn't already seen it. But an idea for how to filter out a lot of the fake news, not just a few, but a lot of the fake news at once to get good news results at the top of your searches using whatever search you want, because it doesn't matter if you're using DuckDuckGo, you're still going to get a Google search. Depending on how DuckDuckGo updates its filters. Call me a Penny Annie Generalissimo. PAG. I kind of like that. I really do. Punk ass PA, right? I have got to accept the term ass I really do. I won't deny it. That is part of my nature. The question is, can you really convince this ass to pull that load for you, or not? Because if you can't, it might cost you something. I'm not saying I'll charge you. I'm saying you'll make a decision. It might cost you something. Might cost you a lot. You can let the fucking ass go, you know. I know that I'm an ass though because, well, quite honestly, because Diogenes tells me I'm an ass, but he was a bit of an ass too. He was a good kind of ass, the best kind of ass. He's the kind of ass that you call bum rather than call him an ass and admit to his real value. If you get what I mean. So when a really high quality ass comes along, there is a chance, really rather high chance, that it will be misidentified as a bum rather than an ass properly. I'm not your average bum though, I think you'll find. Exceedingly rare if bum. I heard someone else say tonight that they were a shitlord extraordinaire, and I thought, extraordinaire. That's a good way of thinking about it. To say you're a shitlord extraordinaire admits that you think privilege. Extraordinaire is the privilege designation. It also is a rank. It's a type of ranking. So I pulled it apart, extraordinaire. Just to let them know I saw it. Then I put it the other way. I took it apart the other way, which is, privilege half rank. It's not the other way. It's both ways. It could be either way. Rank has privilege, sure. And privilege has rank. Funny that it ends up being what I guess a lot of the Western sense of humor in the last, 50, maybe 80 years has been twisting on this dichotomy of what it is we say is true. Rank has privilege. How it's funny that when you reverse or play around with that implied association, like rank is a property distinction of some kind or whatever. If it were flipped around, hey, it still works. Funny how it still works both ways, right? Ideally, let it work both ways. Let it work. At least. Is that me praying? I don't think so. Ain't me really praying. So things to be pointed out, things to be identified with arrows. Good morning, Mr. Williams. Good morning, Mr. Williams. Not really. He just doesn't quite get there. A series of shots here that are revolving around. This is the obvious focal point. The hand, the hand affirms it. See that he's right-handed. This is a very Eastwoodian. I gotta write that down just to see what it looks like. Eastwoodian or Eastwood-esque. Because of the guy off screen, like screen left, with the gun in his right hand, so he's kind of over his shoulder from the camera's point of view. The camera's between them. This guy's going to cross camera, going to cross the line as he advances into the frame. Oh, we're saved from the moment. Why are we saved from the moment? Because he reverses his angle just in time, and they spin around. Kid comes in and calls him daddy. He literally says daddy. And he's so big. He's a big kid now. Would he still say daddy at age 6, age 7, age 8? I doubt it. It isn't plausible. It doesn't sell right. And so the moment that they have together is wasted or wounded or broken. Who the fuck are you, Bubba? Poke the bear is the kid's joke. We get this expectancy from both these people are back onto the camera. Camera is in the house itself. Where the camera is where the house, the center of the house, like the moral center of the house, us, the audience, is sitting on the couch as this transpires in front of us. This is an interesting way of looking at it, maybe. I'm thinking about moving that down here so that I can compress the space of all of these 3 strips. And as I say, the yellow ones won't really have anything else added. They're only marking right now where there are places in the audio with voice acting being delivered. So I'll have to transcribe the lines somewhere on screen or somehow to the screen. Indicate who's speaking, for example. Eastwoodian. Eastwood-esque. There must be another way of saying that. Eastwood-esque. Who's that under the Eastwood-esque? I think it's his accountant. Grab on the Y. Oh yeah. If it was faster, like if it was fast as that, it would probably look good. There's also the funniness of the fact that I'm using these 2 colors being flashed back and forth. It doesn't only imply the police, it also implies I might be trying to psychologically manipulate you into having a feeling about the fact that the colors are changing. Or maybe I want to appeal to your left side of your brain and your right side so that there's no question about this. Was he? Was he? Yeah, it's very ancient technique there. 3D stereo projection using blue and red filters. But anyway, that would be funny if I made it 3D at that point. I could probably try that. Do a 3D pass and overlay that end of the movie with a little something for somebody who would like that kind of thing. That's a funny thought. I hadn't thought of that. That's exactly how this would be effective. Make it obvious that there's a blue and red thing going on. And then this text, make it 3D and pop it out. Make it 3D and pop it out so if you were wearing blue-red glasses, you would see 3D text popping out at you. That would be funny. Very simple change to this, and would be very easy to render that many frames to do it in. Then I'd have to make the text move in 3D to make it make sense. Blender might be able to do something like that. Give me the right stereo pair, you know, overlay. Or even if I faked it. Even if I was to push it on the screen, yeah, it only needs, okay. It needs to have an offset, right, for the left and right eye. The distance of, and it can be put onto the same image. It doesn't need to be projected in the same manner. It can be put onto one flat image and then the difference corrected with lenses over your eyes. Means I might have to get a pair of those sons of guns. Like a proper good old pair of them. Overall, I don't actually want to point out too much about to talk about this too much seems to be probably in bad taste for considering the tone, the lightheartedness of the rest of the movie. But I think there is a big explanation toward the end of the movie, right here, which ties together why this particular shocking, even, brutally honest portrayal of that morning, which may not be true because it's certainly not in the book. Is this going from Taya's account? Taya's account is partially in the book. Taya's point of view, supposedly, after it had been put into the book once and gone through some kind of editorial process somewhere else, the publisher. So, maybe I should mark. I think I should probably mark this. How will I mark it, you ask? Haha. I'll take this last one right here and duplicate it, Shift D. And this starts all the way up to here, so it's 199 onward. Snap it to there, grab the end. It needs to come all the way up to there, really. I can rename that. The brutally honest NRA. So it's not an advertisement. What is it? Infomercial? Infomercial might be closer to the truth. I don't know. But considering what Taya has been doing, I think it's a fair assessment. And please note, I haven't put anything like that on the screen yet. I'm merely making my own judgment clear in the project as I make it. I think I'm going to try to imply that somehow on screen, even if it's only a little tiny overlay in one portion of the screen. For example, here, this area is dark, this area is light. The very next shot, it's reversed. Isn't reversed. This area is still light. She's here, so there's the most areas in the middle. Could work here, since that would be true in 3 images, right? I could put something in that part of the image, and it wouldn't be intrusive. Look what's going to be there. Something here, something here. Oh, look. And then we get a switch of camera positions and people in the room, and then this part matters again. Got a bump of a dialogue and everything. This is pure fiction. This has at least been based on someone's account that was there, not both the people. Get it? So I don't think much else needs to be really said about this set of shots that I've already said in text, like delivered in voice acting. My own self as some other cartoon character. I might add a cartoonized character, so I can possibly add a cartoon guy to stand on the screen here and, you know, basically move its mouse. Might even be enough for this part. Or what I was thinking about doing was using some kind of an overlaid image involving the NRA again. In many documentaries there would be, you know, some kind of dramatic reconstruction. Dramatic reconstruction added to the screen might help. Could put it down here in the letterbox region. Dramatic reconstruction. That might be enough, right? But let's not mistake what's really at stake here. What matters to the movie, or the people that wrote the script, or the people that developed the screenplay, people that decided to put what shots and where, people who produced the movie, they wanted this here. Of all the days in history, they picked this Groundhog Day, which is particularly important to this person's existence. This person is being dramatically reenacted. Dramatically. And that's what they're here to do with this movie. So if you've paid the movie money, you've helped that cause. Hey, look at that. Not just any product placement. Now, I can't say that I've come from a household where this would have ever been considered normal, let alone part of the enacting, you know, part of the drama of the ongoing mourning. Dad comes downstairs after finishing his shave. What's he doing? Oh, look. He's having a great big lark with the handgun. Just like normal when Dad's here. I really like this. Like the sense of this being flashing, maybe not strobing too much, but flashing at least, and the text popping out and moving in a 3D manner. That's funny. Now with the green ones, the pointing out with arrows, what I'm thinking is what's currently set to 50% opacity would actually be set to pretty much full opacity. As an overlaid item, I'll draw an arrow some way, shape, or form, probably in Blender. Render a single still image of an arrow against a black background, pop it onto the frame as a still image, and then move the image on the frame. And then I'll tell this strip, this color, to use that image as a matte, as a mask. So anything which is white in the image will pop out. I'll get a green floating transparent arrow which moves around and is identifying something. If I want to rotate it or move it, I can do all that in Blender. Excuse me. If I want to rotate it or move it after the fact, I can add what's called a transform strip. That allows for rotation, rescaling, everything. Then all I have to do is lay down a series of keyframes here in the video strip editor, which is much easier than trying to go through and keyframe things on and off screen for particular frames in time. I also get this when I scrub through it now, which I kind of like. I like to find the right speed for scrubbing through it fast. So you get all the numbers. Maybe if you got 1 in 10 or something, I don't know. 1 in every 100 frames. Using a decimation filter to figure out a decent time lapse, a quick time lapse of this entire 45 minutes, that would be pretty neat too. One that guarantees I get all the numbers. So there'll be a constant flicking back and forth between image and number. It's very evenly spaced throughout the film. This amount of bullshit that evenly spaced, it looks like it's a farm of some kind. It looks like it's meant to make a lot of money over a long period of time. What an insurance policy for the name of Chris Kyle, which is what Jesse Ventura was talking about. I shouldn't say anymore, right? I mean, I should keep my nose to the grindstone and start doing some of these video elements that I keep talking and rapping on about so much. I also mean to say that there's more than one way of going about using the colored parts, like the green arrow is the first one I'm really going to worry about. It's back here. This guy here, I can put an arrow which is white on top as well as green glow. That's what I mean to say when I can matte out to just this green layer. Can also then blur this green layer so that it becomes like a glow around a white thing. So it looks a bit like a lightsaber, just a bit. So I'm thinking green lightsaber, basically red lightsaber, red lightsaber, red lightsaber. Think those terms. The type of visual effect I want to get with these colors. Lightsaber, lightsaber. The yellow one I'm not so clear about what I need to do. If it's changed something on the screen about their eyes or darken this. I could set, for example, I could set this to subtract. Just watch this. If I set that to subtract, that gives me a better idea of what I'm talking about here. And then I could cut a region out where you focus. Or put it another way, this is kind of nuit américaine, if you've never heard the term in film before. I can artificially make it look like night by filtering certain colors. Change the character of the entire scene fairly simply. Subtracting only a certain amount of whatever. Subtracting just the right amount of whatever. Because it's pretty evenly spaced throughout. This has all been made to look one way already. So it's particularly weak against hacking. Direct action is very possible. I'm going to give you some reflections too as a Discordian. When I did this list up, I didn't pay much attention to what the numbers were as I was obsessively making the list out. But here's number 2. Here's number 3. Here's number 5. Right? The fifth shot essentially of the film is this one. Also what I'm saying, it's really evenly spaced out to get the entire movie, the film, the entire story of the film. Basic plot line comes out like this. You can see where the CNN segment jokes are. There's a bunch of them in between there too, really. In through here. There's a bit of CNN going on from here onward. Although this is all true, right? This is the truth of the story. It's a very short segment of where the truth is. Then when it gets to here is their reaction to the truth. Biggles, alive for now, dead in the next scene. See? The truth of the movie, whatever the truth is, the gold of it is right here. Afterward, it turns into CNN bullshit. Once he's home again, it's closer to gold, but then there's the ad. The ad break is coming. And Ventura challenged this directly in the Joe Rogan podcast. What right did Kyle have to work with people who were suffering from whatever, veterans of whatever nature, particularly ones who've been wounded, one manner or another? Sooner or later, I'm going to have to do something with the letter from Mark Lee. And it's pretty, it would take a while to read the letter from Mark Lee. So if I release this video with it, I don't know how I could release this video allowing for all the words of the letters. I could probably, here's a thought, I could put it up as a ticker. I could put up in a ticker fashion the entirety of the letter from Mark Lee underneath the image for the entire sequence. Fast enough or slow enough to allow anybody who was watching and listening to read the letter and ignore everything else. Ignore everything else and listen to the letter, right? That strikes me funny. I've seen that done a lot of times. I've seen that kind of thing done a lot of times. I've seen it done once and then repeated year after year after year a lot of times. The things that matter. Ha ha ha. Where are the numbers, right? I have to punch in a number. Not here. Here. 81 right now, it says 80 twice. Where am I at 81? $80, 81. I got a good mind to put in a blue screen of death joke. I'll do that last. A good mind to keep the fuck up in the audio. Have the audio say 80 twice. So it'll go 80 here. Then the audio says 80. The number says 1. And then as soon as it gets to here, well, this will happen anyway, but in the last final cut, before I actually release it, I'll have rendered everything else first, and I'll stick in a little tiny piece between this segment and that segment. I could put it in now. I could cut it, spread it apart, but then I had to move all these little bits and bobs with it. And I'm not necessarily eager to try to grab them all at once and move them. Not yet. I would rather get most of them done and then do this last. But a blue screen of death with a Windows fail chime right here would be funny. Right there would be funny, because it's a Microsoft joke following. Microsoft joke coming. So to double reinforce that Microsoft joke makes sense to me. Be funny. Bam, and bam with the Microsoft fail, you know, boom. Everything goes to that blue screen. What's the cause of the blue screen? You pause, go back, and the numbers being said one thing, the actual number reflected is another. Bad memory location. Windows just goes, and that's enough of that, right? I ain't on Windows. I still get errors, but they don't blue screen me too fast. And I'm starting to see where the errors are. Like the sound system. Pulse audio is particularly weak. I can't get Jack working on this son of a gun. If I ever get Jack working, that'd be awesome. Be like, Jack, get to work. Yes, guy, I'll get to work, says Jack. I actually got the Jacks. It's not on the computer. It's a long story. Did you see this message? I gotta working on my future as a Penny Annie Generalissimo. Oh yeah. I was saying much earlier, what I got to do next is, this one needs a mark, but I'll do it last. I don't want to move everything apart yet. Blue screen of death requires that I add in a few seconds at least for the joke. I want everything to fail, stop, and be presented with an old classic blue screen with white text on it with a whole shit ton of, not gibberish, but things which you would be expected to read out over the phone. Like, who the fuck is going to understand that by voice rather than wanting to see some kind of dump? Is this displaying what the last dump was, so in the off chance I actually know what all these memory locations refer to, I'll figure out the problem was? Because, at least in my case, you can tell that there's audio data relating one piece of information and visual data relating another piece of information, so there's a fuck up. Bing. I should have cut it and corrected it, but I ain't going to, and I'd rather add more complexity later to cover up for the fact and make it funny than to continue forward, and I won't explain it anymore. That's what the stream is for. The stream is for explaining why I do certain things. Why I know in advance, there's probably a funny joke waiting to happen right here. Particularly with the product that's identified and the rest of these jokes on the other layer involving CNN. And I mean CNN directly. I have nothing to lose by directing some of their blame their way, because they are in fact one of these red things, but I didn't mark it as such. I didn't think of marketing it as such. Did I? I didn't think of it at all. No, I didn't think of that. I also like to point out, if you were just joining me later in the stream, or you're watching from an earlier time until now, this particular moment in time is the 27th moment in the film. I read it as about the 27th scene or major break in the action. It's not just scenes though, sometimes it's shots because it changes from one location to another. So this one is after they've had a day together. Day later he's able to shoot like nothing, right? But look, he can't shoot for shit when he's here. And he needs to get this good. That's what we're trying to get back to, this fucking story that we started the movie with. Right? Get it? Is that the 23rd moment we're coming up to? Okay, well, hang on. 23. He calls Taya, see? And they get a day together. He wins her the teddy bear because, he wants to get her in bed. And then, bam, he shoots the snake the next day, and guess what happens? 27 in the film's chronology is a CNN moment. Third explosion shatters World Trade Center in New York. Huh. Funny. Funny. Yeah, anyone wants to pause it, look back at it later. Yeah, probably I should do a zoom in on that from the original source rather than subjecting everyone to something which has been crunched a bit. But it's pretty obviously third as opposed to second. First, second might have made a lot more sense to the story. Anyway. What the fuck was CNN smoking crack that day? What? Yeah, it's not too early. In medias res number 3 for that one. 27th moment. Third callback to this in media res sequence, which ends right here. And as I say, began right there. Right? So I thought ahead a little bit because I knew in medias res was a real important storytelling technique. It's the only artifice in the early films set up to this character Kyle. It might have better explained what had happened with these two individuals if it didn't try to shove all of his life experiences in the first tour onward, instead of speaking mostly about his later experiences in the later tours, which caused much more tension between them. There's a disconnect in time and space because of it. Because this particular moment is what he identifies in the book as his reason for signing up. So how could he have signed up after this if he is still training before it occurred to be a sniper? And he won't be a sniper until after his second tour. The movie says this is his first tour. Right? They don't add up. It's a lot of credit being called at the early part, and then bam, they push across this big tower of bullshit at you. And you're supposed to buy it like there ain't no problem. Yeah, baby. I'm pretty sure they cut him off last year. Tour number 1. Remarkable how much he looks like a... No, I wouldn't say Robin Williams. No Good Morning Vietnam in that shot. Lee Biggles? Dude always in front. Can't tell if he's Robin Williams there or not. Can't neither of these shots. He's shooting. Shooting. Oh, no, that's Mustafa. Mustafa is the last real thing to talk about. Don't let the book fool you. The 4 things which are in this sequence are all directly from the book. And they're pulled from all over through the book and just pushed at the beginning as if that all happened to him right away, when it couldn't have happened till after the second tour, at least. Because he hadn't been trained that way until then. He wasn't used and deployed as such, as a sniper. And then we get a sequence about one of the main bad guys for the movie, which is totally fictionalized or changed to suit the particular narrative of the day. If you remember when the movie was released, when it was going out to audiences, our friend here is sold as a Syrian. That's not what the book says. Book says something else about this guy. Now, I don't think it called him Mustafa either. But yeah, I'm going to take a shortish break. Won't be very long. I'm going to use a little bit of music from a buddy of mine. A recent addition to the buddy of mine list. One of them buddies. A buddy in need is a buddy indeed.
Cream, a song called Outside Woman Blues.
Yeah, Outside Woman Blues. Good one for me.
Am I festive enough, guys? I don't know. Think I need some more shamrocks or something. you is a little tune by Creed, released back in '69. Maybe it's some original material now. Over the past couple of years, I've released a few albums. You know, a little bit of music from each one. And a bit of new material tonight too as well, some stuff people never heard before. First start off with one of my favorites. A little tune by, well, it's an original actually. It's a song called Working Blues, a song I wrote a few years back.
I'll leave this playing a little longer this time. Put down the background. Oh yeah, that's better. Covers my breathing. Problem, of course, being that now the sound system is being chewed up with 2 major calls plus the plus Blender, which is not going to be a very good idea, I think. I'll go the other way. Sounds. Anything happening in the lobby? Nope. Waiting to see whether or not there's going to be any action on Discord in the near future. Link for Discord in the description of the video. Anybody happens to watch in the near future. Not now, at the moment, but you know, some other time. So it's a fairly large project, yes indeed. And I know that there are some special moments that I want to plan out, but as I say, I'm going to start from the beginning and grind my way through it. And then I know that there's 2 places that I have to do something different again. One is this opening sequence needs something special done. I'll want a short clip of this. Just this first part. I'll do that in a separate, another stream. It'll be definitely another stream. And the point, where was the ladder point? Oh, right. Ladder point was the blue screen of death at 81. So that's easy enough to remember. Easy enough to remember, especially if I write it down. Blue screen of death at 81. Which is funny because there's 9 squared. Or 3 to the 4th power. Blue screen of death. 3 to the 4th power. Bing! And it just poops. So what was I saying? Start at the beginning. Hey. Here's a place for an arrow. Why do I think that? Well, let me pop open the audio for a second.
Obvious spotter with the cell phone. ROEs say don't shoot, even though
So that's the difference in timing. The arrow will appear here, and I'll somehow use the color green with the arrow. Maybe the arrow will persist to the very end of the clip, but certainly no farther than where the number begins. And I can change that later by simply dragging that over. So I'll wait till that moment in time. And I'll move this down for now. I need an arrow of some kind. Just a quick graphic arrow. I'll go to the default render. I've got the number counter window open here. If I open the scenes dialog, I see that I've got 2 scenes. One is the overlays and audio, which I'm currently working on in the strip editor. And this is number counter. I'm going to add a new scene. It's going to copy the settings. I'm going to get rid of this for a second. I don't need this area anymore, so I'm going to join it together. Here's my 3D window and user perspective from top down. I'm going to add a camera to this scene that I've just created. And before I get any further, I'm going to change the name of the scene to overlays. Be careful about my naming. Let me think. What I want is just graphic elements. So graphic elements is a good name for the scene. It doesn't need to have any large number of frames in it. It doesn't. It only has the same number as the number counter. Several hundred. 200 in fact. I'll go to perspective mode. Go to the camera. It's camera 2 because there's 2 other cameras being used in various scenes. Which makes it really camera 3. Camera plus 2. I want to change it to orthographic. And also position it above the plane of the ground floor. I'll hide that again. If I go to the render window, it's still rendering a smaller graphic than what's, how to put this. It's rendering a smaller graphic than the actual size of the final project. It's something which is a third as big as the actual project's pixels, pixel for pixel. And consequently, I want it anti-aliased. And I'll be rendering as a still image, just as a JPEG. So now I'm going to change, well, where it's saving. I'll go up a level. It's now in the stills directory. And I could create a new folder at this moment in time and rename it. I'm going to call this Sniper Elements as a folder. And then in here, I'll give it a name Arrow for now. I'm going to add a mesh. It could be a plane as big as this light gray area is. That's the size of the canvas area that I'm working in. I should have a world that I can use from overlay world. This mesh element, which is the arrow, I'll rename it now so that I've got it clearly labeled in the scheme in Blender. I'm going to give it the whiteboard material. And I can go into wireframe mode and make my arrow shape this way. Let's say I want more of these squares in my grid to work with. Is there a way I could get more of them? Yes, there is. I go to the camera mode and I increase the number for the orthographic scale. So right now I have 10 wide to work with and about 6 deep. 1, 2, 3, 4. Certainly more than 5. Hitting tab to get into edit mode. I'm going to scale it on the Y by 0.5. That gives me a nice chunky feeling arrow. Grab that end, snapping it using the control key. How much is too much? Is that too much? Shouldn't be. I need to have an area to bleed over for when it's blurring, and when it does blur, it won't be constrained to the size of the image. Or it will be. So maybe I want it back a bit from there. Could even use shift here and go by smaller increments while still snapping. Okay, this edge, I can select edge mode down here, edge select. I want to delete just the edge. It still gives me the wireframe, if I go back to vertex mode, I can now start laying down the arrow in broad terms. I'm holding control and getting another point. And what I did to get the point to continue was to select the last point. Now, well, I'll select this one. Holding control still. That one missed. I can move it simply by grabbing that handle and snapping it over while holding control, or doing it this way. But since I know I want it right on the intersection point, I'm going to basically position my cursor by a left click on the intersection. Tell it to snap to grid, Shift S, snap cursor to grid, goes to the grid point, and now Shift S again, selection to cursor. I've got these 2 points now selected. I held Shift and right clicked them together. I hit F to join them. I'm going to Shift S cursor to center again, so it's back in the middle. So now if I here's the arrow. It's only an outline though, there has no faces in it. I select them all and hit F again, and it fills the arrow. So now in the face select mode, I see the proper arrow, but it doesn't have the right colored faces. This is a single change which has to occur in the mesh tools. I think it's here, and while I'm in select mode, I want to flip these faces. Oh, which one is it? It's this one. If I make this bigger, you can see it easier. Shading, UVs, faces, smoother, flat, these are all good. Flip direction. And now it's proper white. So there's my arrow. You see it there in 3D space. I'll go to that's orthographic mode. And that's how the camera's looking at the image. Its orthographic scale is as big as this space on the grid. And the image I'm creating is directly on the grid space. So if I now animate the arrow, it'll slide in and out of the space defined by this part of the camera. I can animate it either in this Blender file, or I can make a single image of the arrow and animate it in the sequence editor, which is the better deal. I think that's the faster way of doing work. But I still need to make this image once in Blender to give it the resource to work with later. So that's what we're doing right now. Under generic elements, that's the arrow. So hey, Jim, yes indeed, if I render it right now, I get the arrow right away. And the arrow is a JPEG image that has nothing special to it, and it's pretty small. It's only a little image. But it looks pretty cool. Yeah, actual size close to there. Let me go back to the VSE, the video editing setup. If I now come here to the arrow strip, I could go under the stills folder here in Sniper Elements folder. Oh, do you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to save the render. Render the active scene. Here's the frame number 1. F3 under Pufferfish, under renders, under stills, under Sniper. This will be arrow. arrow.jpg. I'll save it here. Here's arrow.jpg. Pop it down here. The arrow now takes up the entirety of the screen. What? Oh, this is not what you wanted, is it, Jim? Yes, yes and no it is. Let me grab both of these on the Y and pop them down. Here's what we get when we add both of these together currently. And since I know I'm going to be using at least this much green, this doesn't actually matter that it stretches out throughout the entirety. But we do know that I'm going to be working with this image for some length of time. Let's put it down for a few seconds so that we can work with it easily. 3 seconds. Something involving at least 3 seconds maybe of animation or rescaling or something. That's what this is going to be. This is currently set to add. This could be set to subtract. Subtracting green from the white gets us this pink magenta color. This could also be set to multiply, which gets a green tint to the white arrow. And the white arrow is currently set to cross. I could also set that to add. So it's added to this, just the white arrow. And now it's all green tinted. But hey, Jim, what if the arrow were to move? You raise a good point. Let's make the arrow its original size. And let's move the arrow. But hey, how do I limit the arrow's influence to, or the green influence to only the arrow? We do that with a modifier or a mask. Basically, it's the same thing. Effect strip is this color. I can set it to any of these particular types. Multiply is what I've just selected. Add is pretty good too. Add's generally just as good. But adding to one will get you nowhere. Multiplying gets you much farther. Multiplying by 1 especially. So I get a properly green arrow now from the white arrow image I'm starting with. And to limit it to just the white arrow, I'm going to use a modifier called a mask. And it's going to be a strip. The mask is going to be, is that arrow number 1? Oh, it's arrow JPEG. Oh, strip arrow JPEG. Oh, that ain't working too terribly well. Why is it? Well, it's because there is no alpha channel, I think. Arrow JPEG, not a great mask. Not as a strip anyway. I could actually hide it too. Doesn't need to be visible to be used as a mask. So let me go back over here to default, where I was determining what type of result I would be rendering. I want a PNG with an alpha channel, RGBA. Color depth can be 8 or 16 because it's only black and white anyway, it doesn't matter. The bigger the number, the more detailed it is, so I'll give it at least 73% as a start factor. I'll render it and see whether or not that took when I save it. Should have. It is now arrow PNG, save as image. Oh, and I need to make another change. Alpha is currently set to sky. I want it set to transparent. I'll render it one more time. See the difference in the image? Now the image has a transparent background instead of a black background. So I can composite this in a wholly different fashion. F3 is going to be arrow PNG again, save as image, close it. Back to video editing. Arrow JPEG. I'm going to set this to be arrow dot element instead, so I can quickly change the name. Strip input, change it to PNG. Color space was what it is. Alpha pre-multiply will work too. Alt H. And I don't need to add it anymore. Now I can overdrop it. I'm going to hide this for a second. There it is. It's already been moved over a number of frames. So what was before how to describe it? What was before it would have been well, I can change it back to what it was just to illustrate this. PNG. Oh, no, I needed the JPEG. What am I saying? That was what I had before, and to get it to disregard the black, I had to set it to add, because black is 0. Black is considered to be 0 in the color space. So if I subtracted it, I get the opposite. Subtracting 0, nothing, but subtracting 1 takes away a cutout. I should have done that to get the mask to work before, probably. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the alpha over. It's not an alpha channeled image until I use the PNG, the portable network graphic. The offset needs to be the same as the size of the image to get it centered. I can fine tune it that way. And you can see it's right on the crosshairs there. In case you didn't notice, right? Alt H. Now we're going to use the arrow element. Oh, it didn't take as a mask. What about as a mask? Overdrop. Oh. Add. I need to go the opposite direction here. Trying to figure out how to get it to work. Overdrop. Looks like it's working now. So it's using the mask, and it doesn't need this mask to be as long as the strip to maintain the truth. However, if I want to animate that around the screen, then I need to make this as long as the animation. If I want to make it move or wiggle around or something like that. And I don't have to spend a lot of time doing such a motion or such work. I'll show you what I mean. Let's say I want it to match up to the end of the cut. That's how that will work. Okay, animate them. Animate the arrow. You just saw a moment ago that I was using this image offset to get it to this position. Now I've got it to whatever color I set in this color strip. If I want to change the color of the arrow, I'd change the color of the strip. I want it to be really bright greenish, as bright as possible. But this strip here, this arrow element, which can be hidden, it doesn't need to be visible. It can be hidden now because I'm using it as a mask. I can still animate it by animating this value. And I only need really 2 keyframes to make this work. I'm going to get another, can I, no I can't. Shoot, I was trying to think if I could get another window dock in here. I guess I can. I'll split this area that way. And I'll set this one to a graph sheet. I'll go back to the beginning of it. And we're going to use this as basically the center. Although I can make sure that it isn't the center. But I'm going to add a single keyframe here. And I'll add another one here. So here's the 2 keyframes, the offset X and offset Y. And if I now hit home, it'll show me where the 2 keyframes are in relative space to one another. I'm now going to add an F-curve modifier. Much the same way that I added a modifier to get the mask. I'm going to add a modifier to the F-curve of both of these keyframes to add a random noise or a jitter. A little bit of jitter to it. F-curve modifier. Actually, yeah, it's under the N key. And I'll make this window bigger so you can see. Offset X, active keyframe linear, modifiers right here, add modifier. I could do these one at a time just as easily as I could do them together, but add modifier, noise. Blend type, replace, add, and multiply. I need to add noise. How much noise do I need to add? Well, I need to add noise of a certain scale, but I need to think about it in terms of keyframes here. So there's 10, 20, 30, there's a second's worth. How many seconds of noise are we looking at here? 8 seconds or so. So I can get a better look at what that noise is already looking like by zooming in on the graph a little more. And I can look at what it looks like here on screen too by going through time. You see that the arrow is wiggling around a little. It's wiggling around a bit, but not much. And it's on the X scale only. And it's wiggling around as much as this noise is being defined. And changing these numbers changes the manner of the scale of the, or whatever. Strength, phase, offset, change where the noise is and how it moves. Let's go to 1.23. Phase differential is not much. Add. How about if we replace? What's this look like? I don't need to hear this right now. And what I am really trying to do here is to get a larger noise value. I want this to be wiggling around a bit more as if it were floating with the scope. but not quite with the scope. Attached more to him. What if I multiply by it? Now let's just go home. Yeah, multiplying looks like the real way to go here. Multiplying gives me the best options for frame rate. That's way too much, right? But it's closer to what I want. Hey, if I increase the scale now, what do I get? More like I'm looking for. I want a smoother line over a longer period of time. More like that, yeah. As the scale goes up. Now the issue is I need to make sure that it's like close to the right value. That it stays limited. Strength, only 1. Hey, about strength 0.05. Can I change the phase value to change its location? Yeah. 0.1. 0.5. Because it's being multiplied, offset. Go back to the keyframe. Let's say that's going to be 10. Yeah, can you hear it or not? So to speak. That's pretty cool too. So that's popping off the frame way off to the left there, yeah? Oh no, it isn't visible till then. I can also grab the point here and move it up or down in space, see that? Which will also influence where it is in X space. And that's by grabbing the keyframed point, which is on the graph right now. Let me go A. Get both of them at once there. But that's just the one on X. So if I grab on Y and increase it, I can get it to where I need it. But it's going to be zooming past it. So it's too much noise, right? So hey, do we have any other modifiers we might want to consider here? If I go back to the last keyframe, home, see them both. Generator, functions, noise limits, stepped interrelations. We can do any number of things here. Cycles is sometimes neat. But no, what I was thinking about was something a little simpler. Split. No, split. Escape. Join. I was thinking about something just a little simpler. As soon as I got this lovely arrow, I can now change this. Look, clear the keyframes. Clear the keyframes. Set that back to where it was, 427. And add a bit. 460 something, wasn't it? Or 640. Grab. Because this is a mask being used as a mask, I can animate or move the mask by keyframing it, or I could also change the mask. So I'm going to add a strip, effect strip, a transform on top here. This one can also be hidden, but like this one, it'll be set to like subtract or something. It'll also be, it could be hidden. It'll be the new one for the mask for arrow is the reason why this matters. So this is arrow.transform. And this one needs to know about the arrow.transform mask now being the mask. So it gets it. But I have more options for changing the way the arrow is presented here. I have an interpolation mode by cubic or by linear, main choice. I have positional control again, but it's a little more fine controlled than what was before. Way more fine control in a sense. And it doesn't bleed off over the edges. I can keyframe them just as easily, but I also have a scaling factor now. I can make it bigger or smaller, zoom it in, zoom it out. And I also have a rotation factor, which is really nice. And this depends on the way that it's centered. Because I've offset the original one, then it rotates around the center of the actual image when I rotate it, which makes this really nice for pivot point. Now to get this to work better, when I rotate it as much as this, like it's about 60, let's say 60 degrees, I could pop it into the frame at 60 degrees when it's pointing more like this. And then as the frame goes on, it will return to essentially the 0 point was. Like that. So it's a single motion between two keyframes that might need a little bit of tweaking one way or the other. But that's simple. And now that I've got this element done once, this can be replicated as many times as I need. Either by creating a new strip like this with an animation attached to it, or by using something which is statically linked in the same manner. Just as a mask. Hey, I just need this particular piece of green, please. But this is the color of the element. This is what's making it green. So if I hide that, the mask goes, like the arrow goes away. Will alpha overwork like that too? Yeah. And what if I multiply it? It goes away. It only works on the alpha channel. But it's very cool for the alpha channel. Filter. Gee, can I oversaturate it? Yeah, if it goes too low, it just goes to 1. I can turn it on and off. I can't really make it more saturated than it is. Can I multiply it away? Yeah, I can. Up to 1. Or fade it out. So there's a quick fade mode from 0 to 1. If I wanted to fade it in and out without having to necessarily lay a fade into this or doing it to the entire channel, because I do want opacities 1 for this color element. And for this reason I prefer Blender. It gives you a lot of control over this part. It's kind of like working with Photoshop or GIMP while at the same time working in a Premiere mode. So I was talking earlier about Muy American. There it is. Putting a filter on that makes it look like night. As opposed to the one over cranked yellow. And what's that one again? Oh yeah, don't let the book ruin it for you. And in medias res. It's way early in the morning. It's too early for me to continue. I have to do something else before I can do anything else, and that is I have to consume some calories. I'd like to thank you for watching, though. My name is James PFP. This is the Banjocast. I'm working on a long-ish term project, which I should have done in the next little while, now that I'm getting some good grind under. And I'm pretty pleased with what I've done in the last 24 hours here, so I was glad to get a chance to show it to you. If you have any questions, queries, any objections, you can leave them below in a comment, and I will be talking to you later. Pitchforks, flaming torches.